Hi, everyone. I'm Pascal Hansen, CEO and financial strategist at Zada, which is a boutique firm created to help business owners achieve more through business planning, education, and consulting. One thing that makes Zada unique is that we work with a vast network of vetted experts and strategic partners to help our clients keep thriving. Today, I'm having a conversation with one of our experts, Tom Klausen, who's also an Elevate contributor. So Elevate is our online course for business owners that covers topics from A to Z of interest to business owners who want to improve their business in every area. So Tom has a Bachelor of Commerce degree, but has made a long, successful career out of one page out of a main textbook. I'm going to ask him a little bit about that. He works with small and mid-sized company owners to help them solve their financing challenge. He's a great coach. He's introduced bankers and accountants to the world of alternative finance. And he's also been involved in hundreds of fundings of every size and teams up with some of the best business finance professionals in the country. And although his primary focus was in providing full service factoring, AR lines of credit, and purchase order financing, he now works with business owners to make sure they get the right financing at the right time. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thanks, Pascal.
So to get started, what did you mean by you built a career out of one page out of a textbook? Let's start with that. What does that mean?
Well, it is absolutely the truth. I went to UBC, the son of an immigrant, and he said, "You must get a degree." And I said, "Okay, Dad." And of course, back then they lent you money and gave you grants and everything. So it was a great time. And so 5 years of learning about finance, and that was my passion. But about 12 years later, I was invited to speak to the finance club of UBC. And so as a little research, I dug up the old financial textbook, which I had retained, which was, like 1,200 pages long. And I was focused on factoring. So I looked in the index, I looked it up, and factoring was a 1/2 page insert describing, the purchase of accounts receivable used for cash flow, working capital purposes, like a little inset, like 1 page. That was it. And that's how I started my presentation to the Finance Club of UBC. I held up that book and I said, "Listen, what you're learning here, these are fine and dandy knowledge here, but the truth is, the most widely used form of finance in the world is factoring. It's used in every country. It's been used for centuries, and there's no mention of it. And there's so much misinformation about it and confusion that renders it, the term factoring has a negative concept for some people. It is actually bizarre. And I've spent 22 years.
And I think it's because people don't fully understand it. And as we've spoken about in the past, and we actually wrote a blog post together, there's factoring with recourse and non-recourse, and people need to know the difference and how to communicate. I think the biggest obstacle is, some business owners are concerned that their clients are going to think they're going out of business, as opposed to having a conversation around, we're just delegating this part of our business. So it's teaching them how to communicate, I think.
That's absolutely true. But as a finance professional, you would think that you would have some knowledge of this worldwide form of financing. And so I hope things are different today. And my understanding is that there's better, training for these UBC grads. But it's kind of scary to think that people are coming out of the university, with MBAs and BComs, and they don't really know much about the reality of financing a small business, which small businesses, by definition, a small, medium-sized enterprise, is 95% or more of Canadian businesses.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest challenge is facing business owners? What's the biggest challenge today?
it's similar to what it was before. It's now, before it was lack of information, business finance, specifically business finance information. And today I think it's a there's lots of information, but it's all it's all confusing. It is false, and it's miscommunication. If back in the old days, it used to be that you'd have a banker, and you'd go sit with the banker, and then the banker would open up a small account. They had some leeway, they'd lend you some money, then you'd grow, and they would introduce you to an accountant, then they would introduce you to a equipment finance person, then they'd introduce you to somebody like myself who would factor the receivables, and you'd have somebody to help you, to introduce you. But today, that's not the way the banking system is set up, that that you would have one primary banker that you can rely on, who would give you knowledge. So instead, they're forced to go to the internet. And if you go to the internet today and you're looking for financing, you're going to be offered money left, right, and center. Easy, click here, do this, do that. And without any idea of what they're borrowing, or what they're borrowing for, or whether the amount is right, or so it's become a bit of a circus out there. And so I feel for them.
And I think that's where you come in. I mean, nothing makes up for experience in navigating the complicated waters. So would you say that's one of the biggest things that you bring to the table to help overcome the challenge of too much information?
Absolutely. I think that, and just to sort of clarify the different options, everything sounds so great when you read it on the internet, and the people that work behind the scenes, they're likely to tell you, oh no, it's great, just apply, just click there, put in your social insurance, put your personal information in there. They're even having things now where you click and you give them access to your banking information, and obviously your personal credit and all that other stuff. It's called, it's fintech is what's they're calling it, and they're really trying to lend money to small businesses without having people involved. They're creating this artificial intelligence, they're creating online applications that really, and once in a while it does work. You get somebody who applies, they're approved, and they're funded without a single person being involved. And if that's their goal, then that's great. But from the business person's perspective, it's not so great.
And so what kind of funding sources do you work with?
I work with, the group, it's called alternative finance, right? It's non-bank, non-equity finance. And I think that's a good way to start, because a lot of the information that you see out there, these business people are finding, is that it's equity-based financing. The Shark Tank, the Dragon's Den, there's a whole bunch of angels out there. They call themselves angels, but they're really just sharks and dragons dressed like angels. And they want a piece of your business. They want to make it easy. They want to lend you money, and they want to take a percentage of your business. They want a controlling interest. They are looking for 10 times their return. So the typical angel will invest in 10 companies and then expect maybe 2 or 3 of them to pay him 10 times. And then it's a profitable venture. But what about those other people that he lent to? And so it's, what I talk about is step by step. I start first with government grants, shred claims, take all the money that's available from the government, and there's quite a bit. There's $7 billion in Canada alone being transferred to business owners every year, and business owners need to be made aware of what's available to them. So I set them up with somebody to do that. And then we look at their individual situation. It takes a conversation. I have a 30-minute conversation where I dig into the business. How did you start? Where are you at? Where are you headed? How much do you need? And when do you need it? And why do you need it? And what's your exit strategy? Those are basic questions that need to be asked before you can give anybody advice as to what and how they should borrow. And so I take the time to have that conversation, and then I determine, then, I'd lay out the options. Somebody's got a purchase order and, they can't get the supplier credit, or they need some additional working capital for that, then, I can introduce them to purchase order financing, which then leads to factoring of your receivables. If they say they've got a bunch of free and clear equipment, why not take a secured line of credit based on your equipment? If they've got real estate, the same thing applies. I don't get involved in real estate because I'm not licensed, but that's the easiest thing to do. That's the least expensive thing to do. So I
And
advocate.
what are some of the pitfalls of giving up too much equity too soon?
You lose control of your business. The magic number is about 10%, and people, a lender who's looking at a business and wondering if they should lend to that business, provide debt. Beautiful debt. Debt is money that, a lender lends to the business, and then all they want it to be is paid back. And once it's paid back, they say goodbye. And equity is one of those things where, many times you say, okay, great, thanks for lending me the money, I'd like to pay you back. And they say, no, thanks. I'd like to stay here, or I would like, 10 times my money. They can hold you hostage. And if they own more than 10%, from the lender's perspective, that person is a significant owner, and then also must sign all the loan agreements. They may have to provide personal guarantees. They may have to provide their personal information because they are a registered owner. So once you let somebody in, you got to be careful that you're in complete agreement. And it's so easy once somebody, to dilute equity for working capital purposes is simply, there's no need to do that. With factoring, purchase order financing, inventory financing, asset-based lending, cash advance loans. This is the new phenomena, these fintech cash advance loans. The industry has gotten to the point where they can lend unsecured money to businesses simply based on the track record of their cash inflows, their personal credit rating, industry, all these other ones, the algorithm that they come up with. But you can borrow 50, 100, even $500,000 very easily, unsecured, simply based on your track record. So those are cash advance loans, factoring of receivables, advances on purchase orders, money, lines of credit secured by inventory, by equipment, by real estate, and these grants and shreds and things like that. It's not it takes time to become successful in business, and you don't want to borrow too much money. And sometimes I have to say to my clients, I say, you've got all the tools now. Now you need to focus on sales. Make a sale, get paid, pay all the suppliers, pay the taxes, and keep the balance in your business. Grow your working capital from within. Focus on your supplier credit, obtaining credit from your suppliers, and, focus on, taking your business to the next level. And so grow slowly, be patient, and grow in stages, right? Grow in steps. Don't just think that you're going to sail across the ocean and discover North America. Do like the Vikings did. They went little bits at a time, up the fjord, down the fjord, follow the land, and eventually they get to the same result. And it takes a year or two. It takes time to develop a good, strong balance sheet business, and so be patient, but stick to the rules and focus on sales. I help them because I give them access to working capital, which then prevents cash flow problems, which then allows them to focus on the more important areas such as sales,
to help grow their business.
to
And
grow
so
their business.
how should business owners connect with you? What does that look like?
start with a 30-minute conversation. What I do tell them is I said, check out my website, because I've taken the time, I've built up and added a whole bunch of resources to my website. These are free of charge. There's links to the BDC, the Futurepreneur, the Women's Enterprise, the Immigrant Investors Loans, and government agencies, and go through all of those. It's free information. I just share it because I want business owners to become successful and grow, and then they'll need me. So start with reviewing my website. And then if you're interested, just book a 30-minute conversation. And I've got a calendar there. I've got all my hours that I work, and it starts with that. And at the end of a 30-minute conversation, or 15, a short conversation doesn't take long sometimes to get to the heart of the problem. Then what I do is I describe what the options are that I can help them with. How much it's going to cost, what it entails, why would they do it? How do they do it? All those questions answered. And then if they want to proceed with an application to see whether they're eligible, then I can help them with that. And I collect the basic information that is required from each of these lenders. And then I have a stable of good lenders. I've taken the time to research all the lenders in Canada and the United States, and I've worked with many, many of them. And so over the years, so I know who to go to, and I kind of go through the side door. I talk directly to the underwriters. I present a little bit of a write-up, and I try to, make my lenders love and the lenders are the ones that pay me. My clients, I do not charge anything for my services to my clients. I am paid by the lenders a small amount after the fact if there's a funding.
Yeah, so I would say, and I've known you for a very long time, I would say you have nothing to lose by being educated, simplify the process, really understand what you're doing before you do it. I'll save you time, money, grief, the whole 9 yards. And
a lot
everybody
of times
knows
it's
Tom in the
disappointment.
industry. Yeah, disappointment as well. So know what you're dealing with. So
sometimes
what do
they're
you
declined, they're not even told why, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, what do they do next?
Oh yeah, and we see that all the time. So what do you think business lending for small and mid-sized businesses look like in the future?
I'm hopeful that it's going to get better. Today they're kind of going back to pre-COVID days where they're just using historical data to predict future results. And to me, that's a little, I think they've just shown that anything can happen, and it did, and it will. So it has to be based on, good sound business fundamentals. And I'm just, with the improvement in AI and things like that, I think it will, get better, that there will be specific, lenders that are able to, because people now, these lenders, they access your bank account, they access your sales systems, they can access your QuickBooks. And, these are, business owners are hesitant, but and I don't blame them. But they are read-only access, and it does give the lender the opportunity to really look inside the business and then provide them with the maximum amount of working capital. So I'm hopeful that it'll get better. In the interim, during that period of time, there's, people like myself. I work with a lot of people. I've been in the business 30 years, and I know a lot of people, who've been in similar. I've trained a bunch of people that I now work with throughout the US and Canada who now work in different capacities, and I utilize them and I leverage them, and we refer deals back and forth. And because in my business, I don't make a lot of money unless my clients succeed. And that's kind of a good system.
Yeah, because it's focused on the success of your client. So thank you, Tom. That's all really helpful information. So to end this conversation, I'm just going to throw a random question at you, nothing to do with business lending. And that is, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, Dead or alive, I mean, I would have to say that, I'd love to meet Leif Erikson, you know. He was kind of my hero, he's the guy that first put foot on North American soil. And he was a son of Eric the Red. He, from all accounts, there's nothing written. These are just verbal legends. He was an incredible leader. And I think it would be pretty cool. I've got a picture on my website of me standing beside his statue. And, when I went back to Lansdowne Meadows and saw the replica Viking village and all of the Vikings actors dressed as Vikings, I really felt like I was home, so yeah, if you give me that opportunity, I want to have a Viking feast with Leif Erikson.
And I think you'd have a blast.
I would have a blast.
The true Viking that you are. Yes.
The true Viking that I am.
And I am too, although I don't look like a Viking, but
You do. You were, yes. Danes and Norwegians are true Vikings.
I believe so. Yes.
Swedes are pseudo Vikings, but we do love them, and they are nice people.
Yes.
But they ruled Norway for a long time, so I kind of resent them a little bit.
We have a little bit of historical resentment. Yes, of course we do. But we're not going to hold that against them. So thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, Pascal.
For the conversation. For everyone watching and listening, thanks for listening and watching. If you have any information or any questions, I should say, for Tom, just Google True Finance and you will find
True Viking Finance.
True Viking Finance. And if you have questions for either one of us, you can always email us at info@zetacorp.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thanks, Pascal.
Thank you.